It was a bright Monday morning when Emily Carter stood outside the towering glass building of Lyra Tech Innovations, heart pounding and palms sweating. She glanced up at the skyscraper, a shimmering monument to modern technology, and took a deep breath. This was her shot, her dream, her chance to break into the world of innovation and data science. Clutched in her hands was a neatly bound resume, decorated with her academic excellence, her community leadership, and her final-year project that had once impressed even her toughest professor. But she knew that despite all this, the biggest thing on her resume wasn't even printed: her last name, Carter. The same name sewn onto the janitor uniform worn by her father, Richard Carter, who'd been sweeping the floors of Lyra Tech for nearly a decade. Everyone in the building knew him, some with kindness, some with disregard. Emily entered the lobby quietly, trying to blend in among the sea of polished shoes and designer suits. She was wearing her best business outfit, purchased second-hand but pressed with care. She walked to the front desk and checked in for her interview with the data analytics department. The receptionist gave her a quick once-over and forced a polite smile. "Take a seat. Someone will call you shortly." Emily sat in the waiting area, watching interns carry tablets and senior staff chatting over lattes. On the wall next to her, an idea board was covered in equations, flowcharts, and sticky notes. A message in bold red ink at the top read, "Logistics algorithm delay, top priority, ongoing, all hands." All. Curious, Emily read the scribbles while waiting. Her mind couldn't help but race with ideas. That distribution loop. It's inefficient, she thought. She had seen similar models in her coursework, and suddenly the wheels started turning. Before she could pull out her notepad, her name was called. Inside the conference room, 3 interviewers sat behind a long table, each with a laptop and a copy of her resume. "So, Emily," began a man in a sharp navy suit, "tell us about yourself." She spoke confidently about her background, education, and passion for data modeling. But when one of them asked about her parents, she hesitated. "My father works here as a janitor," she admitted honestly. There was a subtle shift in the room. Glances were exchanged. "Oh," one interviewer said with a tight smile, "that's admirable." The questions grew colder, more superficial. They didn't ask about her projects or her ideas. One of them didn't even finish reading her resume. "We've had many candidates today," said the woman in the middle. "Unfortunately, we're looking for someone with more industry exposure." Emily nodded, trying not to show her disappointment. "Thank you for your time." As she left the room, she overheard one of them whisper, "Why even bother applying here?" Back in the lobby, Emily sank into a bench. Tears. She had tried her best. She had studied late into nights, taken on side gigs to afford tuition, helped her dad mop the cafeteria floors after hours, and still, it wasn't enough. Richard Carter noticed her as he walked by with his mop and bucket. "Em?" he asked gently. "Didn't go well?" She shook her head. "They didn't care, Dad. It's like they'd already made up their minds." He sat beside her and handed her a folded paper towel. "You know what I've learned from cleaning up after people all these years?" She looked up at him, eyes glassy. "They all make messes, sweetheart, even the CEOs. The difference is, not everyone knows how to fix them." Emily stared at the whiteboard again. "That red message, the unsolved problem." Her fingers twitched. "What if I could fix one of their messes?" Richard raised an eyebrow. "You got something in mind?" She smiled faintly and pulled out her notebook. That night, Emily didn't sleep. She stayed up at her kitchen table with a laptop, graph paper, and endless cups of tea. She worked through flowcharts, tested equations, and built a sample model. It wasn't perfect, but it was sharp, efficient, original. By dawn, she had a 2-page proposal ready. She printed it and slid it into a clean envelope with a handwritten note on the front. "To the CEO, with respect, from someone who believes in solutions." Before leaving the apartment, she kissed her father on the forehead. "Wish me luck." At Lyra Tech, she entered the building not as a hopeful interviewee, but as a quiet challenger. She asked the front desk to deliver the envelope to the CEO's office. The receptionist raised an eyebrow. Do you have an appointment? No, Emily replied, steady now, just a solution. The receptionist shrugged. I'll see what I can do. Emily turned to leave, her heart racing, her footsteps echoing in the marble hallway. That afternoon, in the executive suite on the 42nd floor, CEO Grant Whitman opened a curious envelope left on his assistant's desk. Inside was a 2-page solution to the company's biggest problem, an algorithm restructuring proposal that made his jaw drop. The equations were correct, the logic was sound, the idea brilliant. Scrawled at the bottom was a single signature, Emily Carter. He hit the intercom. Get me the girl who sent this. The knock on Emily Carter's door came just as she was reheating leftovers for lunch. Her father opened it and turned to her, surprised. It's for you, from Lyratech. A sharply dressed assistant stood with a sealed envelope and a polite smile. Mr. Whitman would like to meet Emily, personally, today. Emily's heart skipped. She didn't even have time to change clothes. Within the hour, she was sitting in a private elevator, ascending to the top floor of the building she'd just been rejected from. Second floor, CEO's office. Grant Whitman stood tall with silver hair and a no-nonsense gaze. His office was lined with awards, patents, and models of the first devices Lyratech had launched 2 decades ago. But his attention was on the thin file in his hand, the one marked Emily Carter. I'm impressed, he said, gesturing for her to sit. Most people wouldn't dare send unsolicited solutions to the CEO of a billion-dollar company. I wasn't trying to be bold, Emily replied, steadying her voice. I just wanted to be useful. He leaned back. This fix you proposed, it's not just good. It's efficient, scalable, and elegant. My lead developers have been stuck on this for 2 months. How'd you see what they didn't? Emily hesitated. I saw it on the idea board. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Do you know what that tells me? He said, closing the folder. You're a problem solver, and that's rarer than any degree. Within hours, the entire mood of Lyratech shifted. Employees whispered about the janitor's daughter being summoned upstairs. Rumors spread, some admiring, some jealous. Emily was offered a paid internship with direct mentorship from the innovation team. Not a pity role, a real position, with her name on the door. But success wasn't met with applause from everyone. 2 weeks later, Emily had already improved 2 minor systems in the company's logistics framework. Her insights were sharp, her code was clean, and her humility won over most of the team. But not Trent Miles, the lead developer she had unknowingly outshined. She just waltzed in and became the CEO's favorite, he said one morning in the break room. This isn't a fairy tale, it's a tech firm. Others remained quiet. They knew Emily had earned her place, but resentment has a way of speaking louder than truth. A challenge comes. One morning, Trent stormed into the conference room during a team huddle. We need to rework the core inventory system. Emily, since you're so good with algorithms, why don't you lead it? His tone was polite but laced with challenge. Emily looked up. Sure, she said calmly. Let's do it. Over the next 2 days, Emily worked long hours, again at her kitchen table just like before. She mapped out the entire inventory flow, proposed 3 cost-saving changes, and built a prototype in her free time. When the presentation day came, even Trent was silent as she walked. Effective, affordable, scalable, that's the trifecta. Trent offered a tight nod. Not bad. Lunch with the CEO. A week later, Emily was invited to lunch with Mr. Whitman in the executive dining room. She sat quietly as he looked out over the city. You know, he said, I started Lyratech in a basement, no college degree, just curiosity and hunger. He turned to her. You remind me of that version of myself, so here's what I want to do. Finish your internship, then come on as a junior systems analyst. Long-term, benefits, growth. What do you say? Emily was stunned, her voice cracked. I'd be honored. A surprise at home. That evening she returned home, buzzing with joy. Her dad was in his usual spot, watching old movies. You're home late, he said. Emily sat next to him and held out a company badge with her name and new title. Dad, I'm staying full-time. Richard Carter didn't say anything at first. He just pulled her into a hug. eyes full. You earned it, kiddo. 6 months later, Lyratech had improved its logistics by 17%, saving millions, much of it credited to Emily's ideas. Her father still worked as a janitor, but now wore a small pin on his uniform that read, "Proud father of a Lyratech analyst." One morning, Emily walked into the building and caught a new intern glancing nervously at the idea board. She smiled and handed her a pen. "You see a problem up there?" The intern hesitated. "I don't know, maybe." "Well," Emily said, "go ahead, try solving it. That's how it all starts."